What's up, everybody? My name is Shannon, and I am still waiting for my Seder. I'm gonna apologize now if I sound a little funny. It's because I am very congested. But I just finished the best book I have ever read, so I have to review it now because I am literally bursting with fangirl feels because literally no one has read this book. I mean, it's new, but still, no one has read this book. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, it is the Illuminae, book 1 in the Illuminae files by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I'm sorry if I said your name wrong. I'll probably mispronounce a lot of things in this book because it takes place very far in the future and has some words that aren't really words, and I don't know. We're gonna muscle through it. But as you can tell, I am just absolutely bursting, so let's get started. Let me just start off by giving a big thanks to my cousin Megan for recommending this book to me. If it wasn't for her, I never would have heard about it, and I don't want to live in a world where I haven't read Illuminae. From start to finish, I was completely hooked, and I really wish I knew more people that have read this too, because at times I just needed to fangirl. For those of you who don't know about this amazing book, allow me to enlighten you. Illuminae takes place in the year 2575 in a sort of Star Trek-esque future. It just sort of reminded me of Star Trek. It has nothing to do with Star Trek, but if you've ever seen it and then you read this book, you'll get what I'm talking about. We start off by learning about Katie Grant and Ezra Mason, two typical teenagers who live on what I assume is an Earth-colonized planet. We don't actually know. They never really say. Called Corinza 4? I probably said that wrong. The planet has been attacked by biotech industries, and most of its inhabitants have escaped on 3 spaceships. The Alexander, a heavy battle carrier home to most of the military personnel. The Hapita, probably said that wrong too, a scientific exploration vessel, and the Copernicus. I don't know much about this ship for many reasons, and I'll get to those in a little bit. Biotech basically destroys Corinzna 4 and then continues to pursue the fleet throughout the book. That's threat number 1. Threat number 2 is a virus called Phobos. The virus is a result of a biological weapon that Biotech used on Corinzna and is now mutating on board the Copernicus. Now, the reason I don't know much about the Copernicus is because about a quarter of the way into the book, the Alexander's artificial intelligence known as Aiden destroys it, killing 2,000 people. And that would be threat number 2. An insane AI? Or is it? In my opinion, what made this book so addictive is the way it was written. The whole story is told in a series of interviews, IMs, emails, surveillance footage, and other confidential files. It was so fun to read it like this because I kind of felt like a spy, and the story never got bogged down with internal struggles. We basically follow Katie and Ezra, who had recently broken up during their time on the ships fleeing from Biotech. Now, I say basically follows because, like I said, this is told as like a series of files and documents, so it's mostly centered around Katie and Ezra, but not really. It's kind of hard to explain unless you've looked inside this book, but it's just all of the IMs are mostly back and forth between them, but we do branch off and see some other things, but mostly they're the main characters. All you really need to know is that Katie, who is on the Hapita, is very skilled at hacking into things, and Ezra, who is on board the Alexander, becomes a military pilot. Now, I know what you're thinking, and I'm going to stop you right there. Yes, they are teenagers. There is some minor teenage drama, but that is not what the story is about. I cannot stress that enough. Their drama and feelings towards one another are almost nothing more than the most brilliant plot device ever, and I am going to keep that one thing a secret. I know I give away a lot of stuff in my reviews, but that is one thing I refuse to give away, because when I got to that part, I literally dropped the book and I was like, oh shit. And I was so mad because I didn't have anybody to talk to about it. Okay, so after Aiden blows up the Copernicus to save the fleet, it is shut down and the crew attempts to bring it back online, but under their control, so obviously it's gonna take a little bit of time. But with Bitech closing in, they have to bring it back on much sooner than anticipated in order to properly battle them and get away again. After their fleet narrowly manages to escape, Aiden then releases Copernicus refugees that have been on board the Alexander and claims that it's the only way to save the mission. Now, I'm gonna bring this up. We do get to see, like, a lot of the things from Aiden's point of view, which was absolutely amazing. And you really see that this computer was basically, like, he was programmed to do what was right for the fleet, and he was like, this ship is contaminated and it needs to go. So he shot it down. And then after they barely managed to escape from the Bitech ship, which is referred to as the Lincoln, he was like, or it was just like, okay, we have some major chain of command problems going on aboard this ship, and I can't exactly just shoot it out of the sky because I'm part of it, so I'm gonna release all of these afflicted refugees and see what happens. And so, of course, the afflicted begin to kill everyone, and because it's an airborne virus, basically anyone who now breathes the air will get sick too. Once Katie learns of this, which she learned illegally through her hacking, she is determined to go rescue Ezra. Okay, so I haven't talked much about Katie and Ezra's relationship, but this is what you need to know. They basically broke up the day their planet was invaded. And then after that, they, have been on two separate ships, and they do communicate a little bit before this happens. There's like a 6 months gap between all of the major events in this book and when the planet was invaded, and it's mostly Ezra reaching out to her, not so much the other way around, but she does start to reach out, but that's mostly because he's aboard the Alexander, so she thinks that she can use him to, like, get more information, because, she's one of those, like, question authority, I gotta find the answers for myself types, so naturally, of course she was gonna try and just hack into everything. But, like, as the story progresses, they kind of work out their problems, more or less, and they do still love each other and all that fun stuff. There is a little bit of that, which it builds, and you root for him. It's good, whatever. But Katie decides to go rescue him, and she gets on board, and of course, it's basically like a zombie apocalypse over there, because what this Phobos virus does to you, it makes you hallucinate, and you basically, like, come down with, like, horrible PTSD, and the main thing is that you just kind of kill everyone, and you're seeing things, and you're hearing things, and you don't want anybody to look at you. That's, that's, like, the main thing. I thought that was hilarious. They're always like, don't look at me! Which, I don't know, it was really scary to read, honestly. Like, it was just, oh my gosh, because there was a couple of confrontations where, they're afflicted because they've been breathing the air, but they seem almost normal, and then all of a sudden they just get this look in their eye, and they're like, don't look at me, and it was just like, oh no, this is gonna be bad. But anyway, she gets on there, and she's trying to find him, they're IMing back and forth between each other, which you'd think would get irritating because it's just like teenage speak. It's basically texting, like how teenagers text. They don't spell out all the words. I'm one to talk. I'm only 19. And they use, like emoticons and stuff. But it's actually kind of cute, and it kind of brings you into their personalities a little bit more. So that was kind of nice. But anyway, long story short, I don't want to give away what happens exactly, but she helps a bunch of people escape. They do make it on to the other ship, and then she tells the captain, leave. there's nobody left on the like, she tells the captain of the Hepita, not the Alexander, to, leave. There's nobody left on the ship. It's just me and the AI. We're gonna hold off the Lincoln as long as we can. You just get out of here. And reluctantly, the captain does, and so basically, it's just her on the Alexander with a couple afflicted, and she's, with this crazy AI, which I don't think he is crazy, because all of his decisions were extremely thought out, and to be perfectly honest, I mean, if you were detached from the situation and this is what you knew you needed to do, this is your goal and you have no emotional attachments to anything, that's the route you would have taken. So I don't think he was crazy at all, and especially since we get to hear from his point of view, I don't know, like, his character was so profoundly beautiful. I keep saying he doesn't have a gender, but it was amazing, and I just loved it. Oh my gosh, like, I can't even talk about it. It was just amazing. But she does manage to hold off the Lincoln for a little while. She, gets kind of injured, but as it turns out, the Hepita did not leave her. Like, they turned around and came back, so she, gets out on an escape pod. Basically the AI, like, becomes very attached to her and doesn't want her to die, so he helps her escape after they destroy the Lincoln, and she, gets rescued, and everything, the AI uploaded all of this information, the whole story, to her little tablet so that the story could be told. And we're left off kind of learning a pretty big secret that I'm also not going to tell you. I know I normally give a lot of spoilers, but this book's just so amazing. I don't want to give it away. I gave a lot of things away, but I'm not going to give these things away. Um and it sort of set up for more books. I do know for a fact there are going to be not three more, there are going to be two more. It's a trilogy, that's why I said three. Um, so I'm not sure what they're going to be about, though. Like, Katie listed some things that, we didn't hear about, like some attacks on some other planets, because, like, Bitek's up to something, and I don't know what it is, but we're gonna find out. So, keep a lookout. Anyway, overall, as I'm sure you can tell, this book I'm just going to call it's the best book of 2015. I mean, it might be the best book I've ever read. Like, and I'm obsessed with, like, Percy Jackson and, like, Etiquette and Espionage. I love all those, but this was just amazing. It was so creative, and I don't know, like, I just have this feeling that it's gonna be big, and I honestly, everybody needs to read it, because it's just amazing. Like, you have to have this experience of reading this book, and honestly, I mean, there's no way it could be a movie. I know that seems weird, because they can make anything a movie. I mean, just look at Cujo. But it would be a horrible movie because of the way it's written. You would have to take so many liberties. So don't think that just because, it's so good that it might become popular, you might just get to see the movie. No. Read this book. It may be 599 pages, but it is the fastest 599 pages, and trust me, you will never want this book to end.